The sports landscape as we know it over the last few days, last kind of week, all last week, it's changed dramatically from all the cancellations for the coronavirus to the stuff that went down, new CBA pass for the NFL. UFC Brasilia was kind of like a first ever kind of thing for the UFC. And there's just so much stuff going on in the NFL over the last 2 days. We covered yesterday in the show. We released recapping day one. Now there's stuff that happened day two. We're going to recap for all that for you today. This is the Fourth and Long podcast, episode 28 of this bad boy. And today I'm joined by UFC correspondent and now just kind of co-host Blake Campbell. Blake, it's good to have you on the show, like usual.
Yep, good to be here.
Hell yeah. So as I said, we're going to talk new CBA and its impact over the NFL for the next 10 years. UFC Brasilia was a light in the dark in the sports world this weekend. And let's talk about the impact that the coronavirus is going to have on all professional sporting leagues and promotions. And we'll talk day two of NFL free agency. But as I said, we're going to get this thing started off talking about the new CBA that was just passed for the NFL. This is going to take place and this is going to take effect in 2020, and this is going to run through 2030. So this is big time. There's a lot of new things, a lot of changes that this thing is bringing onto the league. Some of that includes that starting in 2021, technically, as it's not official yet, the owners can still decide or not, but it's highly, highly, highly likely that this will pass. But there's going to be a 17-game season starting in 2021 that will include 2 bye weeks. Then we're going to expand playoffs to 14 teams, and this is going to be you're going to have the top seed of each conference is going to have the bye per usual, but then there will be 3 playoff games on what is still wild card weekend. There will be 3 wild card teams. Big changes in that. There's a lot of new teams that can make that. A lot of teams that might not have the best records that can make that. I'm not sure if I'm sold on this one, Blake. I didn't like that they were changing the playoff system because I thought the NFL had they had the best playoff system out of all professional sports, and I don't like that they're adding another team per conference. What do you think?
I think personally, I'm not against it. I think it adds just another level of excitement, and it's going to add 2 more teams that some fans can get excited for. I think it's a move that's definitely got the fans in mind. Mm-hmm. They're trying to just make it more interesting and just include more teams, which, more competition. They're hoping gets better, results in the playoffs. And everyone likes that. I feel like everyone likes that story with that underdog, 7-9 going into the playoffs. And everyone's going to write them off. They're going to be playing against the number 2 seed. And everyone doesn't think they have a chance, and who knows at any given Sunday, right? So yeah, I think it still has it brings a little interest in still. It may not make sense to the players that and the philosophies that are in place where they really stress the importance of winning your division and taking every game as serious as possible. Like it kind of each game
kind of negates it a little bit,
right? Each game kind of like I wouldn't say loses weight, but it's dispersed out through another game.
Especially right? Adding another team and adding another game to the season. So it does make every game a little less important, seemingly.
Exactly. So I can see both sides here, but really I think it's just a benefit. I mean, 17 games, you get 1 extra game to watch. That's actually going to mean something. It's going to go on their, permanent record for that season. The season's going to start sooner, I would think.
No, it's they're going to take away 1 less exhibition game, so there's only going to be 3 weeks of exhibition.
Exactly. So the regular season will start sooner, right? About a week sooner.
So I guess that's a good thing cooler. For fans.
The fans, I haven't seen 1 L yet for the fans. I'm not a player, so I don't have their perspective, and I definitely don't want to speak for those dudes. But I could definitely see their perspective
as a fan. You like it as a fan. You like this move.
As a pure fan perspective, I'm a fan of it, and that's all.
I guess at the end of the day, with this issue, it adds another team, which does, and especially adding another game. The reason they might be adding this is at the bottom line, it's probably about money, and this will increase league revenue. And every owner is going to be in favor of that. Maybe not the players, but at least with this, this is going to give them a higher pay of it because as another change is this, players will get a higher percentage of league profit, and so this will increase league profit. So players still get more money off of this. So it really is a win-win for both sides. And then if we're trying to rank it off of that, and then I think the biggest win, at least for some players, maybe more specifically Josh Gordon, but there will be an elimination of suspensions for positive marijuana tests.
And it doesn't say opiates though.
No. At least
Yeah,
it's
so
still,
Josh Gordon
still
can't be
weed.
too happy.
Oh yeah, he's still the opiates. Yeah, I forgot that dude was totally off
Bro,
the
he had
rocker.
PEDs, weed, opiates. He's done it all. He's done.
Yeah, no, he's gone. But at least a lot of NFL players, we can't say the same for that one Browns defensive tackle that got caught with 100 pounds of weed at the Canadian border.
Yeah, man, who was that?
Something
I totally
stupid.
cannot remember. But
Something
yeah, I know what you're talking about.
stupid. Yeah, that's not going to bode well for him. This isn't going to do much. But I'm kind of okay with this because weed, it's kind of a silly thing to get
Wasn't it
suspended
Greg
over.
Robinson? I want to say. Shoot, it was like a lineman.
Yeah, it was. It was a Browns defensive tackle, I believe.
I thought it was an offensive tackle.
Was it offense? Was it offensive tackle? Oh yeah, it was. You were right. It was Greg Robinson.
Okay,
Lineman.
I was gonna say because I remember that story.
Damn, Blake. Yeah, you got me right. Greg Robinson, offensive tackle, and he was busted for 157 pounds of the good Kush.
Oh yeah, that makes up for my horrible take yesterday.
Well, yeah.
My Tom Brady
maybe
take.
a little bit. Maybe a little bit. You can repent here at the end of the show.
Yeah, we'll get to that later.
Yes, we will. But I think this is a fine thing. A suspension for marijuana is kind of lame because it's not like it's performance enhancing. And although I don't use it myself, I am for the use of like CBD oils for like pain relief and stuff like that because it's a lot better alternative than prescription painkillers and stuff like that. You know?
Yeah, I totally.
You are definitely proponent of this. You're Californian.
Yeah, I mean, I think this has been a long time coming. It's good to see that they're finally getting something right in terms of like how they deal with marijuana and all that kind of stuff. It'll be nice to see them kind of initiate more, I guess just more of an open mind towards it because I think they're starting to realize like there is no performance benefit to this. The only thing that it can really benefit is just the recovery side.
And if anything, it might be a hindrance for some athletes if they abuse it too.
Exactly. If anything, it just adds an extra level of difficulty, right? You got to be able to manage. It's if alcohol is available to players, and why can't weed be available? It's legal in every state almost.
I'd rather a player like smoke weed than pull Lawrence Taylor and do shots of Hennessy or do lines of coke before a football game.
Right, and I mean everyone has their everyone has their vices, right? But
Lawrence Taylor definitely had some vices.
I think
you want to put it like
weed
that.
is really like the least of the NFL's problems. There's really as long as I don't think they're ever going to get behind the whole like CBD thing and having people advertise for that kind of stuff because there's too many kids that watch this. But it's nice to see them not punishing players for just doing what most grown like I wouldn't say most grown adults, but a
good majority
of the population,
you know?
Yeah.
A
percentage of the population, let's say, enjoys that. Just like a percentage of the population drinks and so on and so forth.
See, I agree with you on that because on the fact that they're not good. I don't think the NFL is ever going to be direct proponents of like marijuana use and CBD use, but now they're just not going to be against it. And I think that's a fine stance to take. And I think that's going to be positive. A part of this, too, is that they're eliminating suspensions for weed, but they are increasing the amount of suspensions for DUIs. And I think that's a good move. That's a healthy move because obviously we should be doing our best to kind of promote against driving under the influence because that is a awful crime. Whereas weed, if you're just smoking, getting high by yourself, or using CBD as recovery, that's not a big deal. You shouldn't get suspended for that. So this deal also is a big benefit for players that make are in the lower end of the salary scale. We saw before this was passed, leading in the weeks with the voting, a lot of big name players were strong proponents against this. Yeah, guys like J.J. Watt, guys like Richard Sherman, really speaking out against this new CBA. but it did pass, and it passed probably because it was this majority of those lower end salary guys, because this is going to increase the minimum salary. They're going to have a salary bonus if you're on the roster for the 17th game. And with that, there is also expanded rosters. We're going to increase the active game day roster from 46 to 48, and we're going to increase the active roster from 53 to 55. So those few things is really helping. It's aiding the younger guys, the guys not as tenured, and the guys not making as much money, because you're giving people more opportunities to make a roster and more opportunities to make even more money. And I think that's why this thing was ultimately passed, because of how close that the voting was on this. It passed with 1,019 votes for, 959 votes against, and we had around 500 players that didn't vote. So with it being that close, I really think it was that silent majority. We all know the NFL, most of the players aren't making that much money. The average player, I think, lasts in the league for 3 years. And so this is why a lot of people chose to vote for it, because it's helping out the smaller guy, you know?
Yeah. I think it was the only thing that was really shocking, I guess you could say, was just the amount of players that didn't vote. I thought 500 players was a little high, considering that only 2,500 something total got a vote.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's really the only thing that surprised me. I thought that the CBA was going to pass, just because I think that they're making enough money to where they'll bite the bullet for one game in order for it to benefit the better of everybody, but only if they really like that deal as a whole. And I didn't think that everybody liked that deal as a whole. So I personally didn't think the CBA was going to pass.
I was surprised when I woke up to the news that it did pass. I was not expecting this.
Yeah, so it's good for the NFL. It gets them one step, well, actually it kind of completes the process, really. There's really nothing else that's on the horizon that they have to worry about other than this coronavirus
this
stuff.
sets it through the decade. So this is a big deal that was taking off kind of worries. So it's nice for the NFL to be able to move on to other problems, other possibly bigger problems.
Right. So 17 games from now on, boys. 17 games.
That's weird. It's going to take some getting used to, for sure.
That starts in 2021, you said?
2021. Yep.
Right.
So
okay.
not
we got
this
one more season of
but one more season. Yep.
Wow. Last time that got
weird.
increased was quite a while, right? Right. The last time it would have been from the 14 game season to the 16 game season.
So what the 80s?
I can't remember when that happened. I was definitely not born yet.
Oh, no, me neither.
90s babies.
I guarantee not even to be a fan by then. But I think it's crazy if this is going to change the landscape of the NFL a decent amount. And I'm really looking forward to see how this plays out. So moving on from that, let's flip some pages real quick, and let's move on into Saturday's action from UFC Brasilia. This is a UFC Fight Night card, and it took place in Brasilia, Brazil. And it was interesting for a lot of reasons. This was the only professional sporting event that took place over the weekend, at least U.S. sporting events. And I thought this was going to be a great time for the UFC to really show off what they are in their product, because they have gone mainstream in the way by not being on ESPN. The whole ESPN era has definitely changed things. But if you're talking to the average sports fan, they probably don't care about MMA, even if it's on ESPN. And that's what I know, Blake. You're a huge MMA fan and UFC fan. I'm still getting there. I'm still glad you got me into it a couple years ago. Much appreciate that. And so how excited were you to see that this event was in the spotlight of all professional sports?
That was pretty much all I was talking about leading into the weekend. I was really excited for the UFC to kind of get the spotlight and just be uninterrupted for, 5-6 hours.
I watched I watched both the prelims. I didn't watch the early prelims, forgive me for I've sinned, but I watched the prelims and I watched the main card. 6 hours of fights. It was awesome.
Right. Yeah. So I mean that right there was already good, a good start to the weekend for me. And the fights, in my mind, they delivered. It wasn't like your typical knockout performances every fight. And we actually got close to seeing another record get broken with the amount of decisions that were popping up on that card, which is really the only thing that I thought hurt the UFC this weekend was just how no
Mhm.
fights were really getting finished. Thank goodness for
At
Gilbert
least,
Burns.
yeah, the prelims were they didn't like finishes, but those decisions were. I thought the decisions were
They were still
better.
entertaining.
I think most of the decision fights were better than the ones that actually had the finish. To be
Yeah,
honest, in
there
terms
was
of
some
action.
really good fights like that woman fight. Who was the Brazilian woman that fought that card,
Oh,
man?
yeah,
She
I
was
know
kicking
exactly
some
what you're
butt
talking about.
on Marcos. She was kicking her
Yeah,
butt.
and
Rebus, I want to say.
that was a brutal fight. No, it was sorry, let me remember real quick
I
because
want to say it was
it
Rebus.
was Amanda Ribas and
Yeah,
Ronda Marcos.
right.
And Ribas kicked the hell out of Marcos. I'm surprised he was able to go the distance.
Yeah. And a really close fight too that happened was that Formiga versus Moreno.
Really like that Moreno fight. That man Moreno, I had that highlighted, is that I think he was, let me see, he was number 5 going to this fight, and in the flyweight rankings, and I think off of his performance, I think he deserves a title shot. I really do. I think they're going to do that, run it back with that rematch first. But after that rematch, I think Moreno should get that shot because that dude, I've seen the lot of his like a few of his earlier fights, but this guy, his the pace he was able to put on and how quick his grappling was so impressive because in the blink of an eye he'll be from the ground to a guy's back and take him to the ground. It was phenomenal to watch. And
Yeah,
these
he's impressive. He's
flyweights
fast.
are,
He's explosive.
I think flyweights are so underrated because it's there's not as much talent it seems like, but those dudes are a lightning fast for all 3 rounds.
I don't know if it's not necessarily there's not as much talent. It's just I don't think they're appreciated as much. Just mainly because they don't hold the power that uh, more heavier weight classes have.
Mm-hmm.
Like their punches, they're able to get off a lot more punches, do a lot more grappling because they're just lighter. They have more gas in the tank.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas guys, the heavier you get, the more calculated you have to be. You can't. I don't know. I don't know. I just think flyweights don't get a fair shake in it. They're entertaining. It's hard to compete when you got guys with bricks for hands just
Mm-hmm.
smashing each other's face. And these guys, when they hit, it doesn't really make the same pop. It just
Yeah.
kind of like glances off of them a little bit. And
Mm-hmm.
they're able to take, it seems like they're able to take a lot more hits.
I think, especially from like the at least the casual fans' view, if you're just the perspective of this, there's a big difference seeing these damn near midgets or like 5'4", 5'5" dudes that weigh 125 pounds, albeit they're shredded. But to see those guys compared to like the heavyweights, like the Francis Ngannou's, the Stipe Miocic's, just the difference in seeing them, it does. You are more inclined to watch the bigger guys swing because it just looks scarier, pretty much, you know. But I still think
Yeah.
it was. I still think it was a great performance. Another fight. I think that we could officially say that the John Walker, the in the light heavyweight matchup between number 10 ranked Johnny Walker and number 12 ranked Nikita Krylov. Can we say that the Walker hype train has now been completely derailed and is off the tracks?
Something looked up with me. I don't know if I was just completely bamboozled or if he was just fighting lower quality opponents, but he just didn't look impressive at all really against Krylov.
No.
Like there was one time I think it was in the second round, right, where he ended up on top and started smashing.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the only time in the fight where I was like, okay, cool. That's the Johnny Walker I know. Like he's a big dude. If you let him get a hold of you, he'll smash you. But Krylov was just able to kind of walk him down, hold on to him, get him down to where he needed, put him in the positions to like just really just hold him and go for submissions and beat him up on the ground. Walker
Mm-hmm.
had like almost no answer. He really had no answer, and I don't know. I don't know what's up with the slide that he's on because he just came out there and he was just finishing folks. And now it's like he looked a
Not
little gun
anymore.
shy. He looked. I mean, did it look to you like he was a little gun shy? Because it didn't seem like he threw with as much
He
intensity as he
just
usually
looked
comes out with.
really. He looked hesitant, and he just looked really uncomfortable there in the octagon. It was like
I
he
mean,
was unsure of himself.
props to Krylov because he definitely put the pressure on him.
Krylov man looked bad.
But I still thought that we would see like at least I don't even remember seeing a spinning attack attempt at all.
No, there was like there was none of the usual Johnny Walker semantics.
Right.
None of
Usually
that
there's
happened.
something really flashy,
It's
right?
like he
Something
was.
that catches your eye.
It's like he was trying to different. He was trying to fight a style that he really isn't. It looked like he was trying to fight a little more careful, a little more calculated, and I think that ended up biting him in the butt in the end of it.
Yeah, I really think that takedown in the first round that Krylov got and kind of kept him down and held him down and just laid on top of him, that killed his gas tank.
Mm-hmm.
You could just see going into this when he was getting to the stool for the second round, going into the second round, he was already breathing heavy. He was already mouth breathing. He was already sweating like a pig. So I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's going to be interesting
I'm
to see what's
really.
next because he's ranked 10. He just got beat by the 12, so he
Come
might
on,
he might be unranked
he
after
still might.
this.
He'll be lucky if he's still top 15. Oh, that's a hard fight for him. It's a hard future, I think, see right now.
But the good thing for
But
him is it is light heavyweight, so that's a division where things can change very quickly.
mhm.
You know,
that
Anthony
that
Smith and
like
Thiago Santos came out of nowhere in the middleweight division and came up to light heavyweight and started dominating. Luke
honestly,
Rockhold and
anyone in that
Weidman
top
moved up out of
15,
nowhere.
yeah, anyone in that top 15, you can really skyrocket in the matter of like 2, 3 wins.
Yeah, you just need a couple of wins, and you'll be back to being important again, really in that running.
Exactly. The last two fights of the card were really exciting, and I don't think very many people saw these fights ending the way that they did. In the co-main, we had the welterweight matchup between number 5 ranked Damian Maia and number 12 ranked Gilbert Burns. And this was supposed to be a showcase of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and grappling, high level grappling. And this was not. This was not that at all, Blake, was it?
Man, Burns starched Maya. Cleanest
Dude.
left hook you'll ever see.
Oh, he dropped him so hard.
And he didn't even want to follow up, but the
No,
referee didn't. I guess the referee didn't see enough. And I mean, Maya was definitely still there, so I I'm not shitting
What
on
do
the
you think
ref.
of the stoppage? Was it a good stoppage?
I think so. I mean, I think since they're countrymen, it was a little bit. There was like a respect factor going in. Like I don't think Burns wanted to follow up on that.
No,
It's
Burns.
purely speculation, but I didn't really have a problem with the stoppage because I mean it wasn't like it was a Roy Nelson one hitter quitter or a Mark Hunt one hitter quitter. It was
He dropped
he for
him.
sure cleaned his clock, but I mean yeah that wasn't a finishing hit by all
No.
means.
See
The ground and
controversy
pound that he
came
followed
from
up with next though that was
Mhm.
whew.
It was
I
bad
like how
ground and pound.
Bisping described it. Donkey Kong.
Dude, I love Michael Bisping. Michael Bisping on commentary is the best.
It's like there goes Donkey Kong.
Why can't we get a commentary group between him, Joe Panic, and Joe Rogan?
Joe Anik.
Sorry, Anik. Thank you. Sorry, Joe Anik. I
Or
apologize.
is it John Anik? I think it might be John Anik.
I
Is
thought
it John Anik?
Anik, Mr. Anik. We'll say
If we
that.
had Rogan, Anik, and Bisping together, that'd be sweet.
But no disrespect to the other guy on commentary. What's his face?
Felder,
Dominic Cruz.
Cruz.
I love Paul Felder on commentary. Paul Felder is great on commentary.
I
But
hope
I
he
love
still
Michael
fights.
Bisping.
I hope he continues fighting.
He has to have at least one more fight. That's the thing with Damian
We
Maia,
got
though, is that
Raw.
Maya, he says that he's going to have one more fight before retirement, and one of the guys he's interested in is Donald Cerrone. I'd be okay with that matchup, I guess. Is a couple old veterans going at it. Eh,
You know what? I'm not against it just because Donald deserves a fight where he's not gonna have his face pounded. My goodness.
yeah.
His last few fights, Ferguson, Gaethje, McGregor. My God, dude, give it a
He's
break
fought
just for a
3
little bit.
straight killers. Oh,
Unreal.
that's why I can't blame Cowboy for his recent side because he's fought literally the best.
So
You
if
can't really blame him
that
for
would that would be an interesting fight for Maya to go out on. I think that there's a chance for both sides in that fight. I think that I would be interested in that. I wouldn't make it a main event, obviously. I'd make
No.
that like the third fight,
Like,
not even a co-main really. I'd make that like a third fight, or
what
maybe
would
even
you make it
to
a
open
main
up with
event on
maybe.
a fight night? Would
No,
you?
no, 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 no,
No,
no.
not even.
I think that's a filler card. That's a card that makes you feel better about that card that you're putting on. Like, okay, at least
Okay,
we got these two studs that are going to show up.
fair
They're
enough.
not something that you want to put their faces on the poster, in the
Mhm.
big slot. That's
Well,
though
maybe
you put
maybe
them in
not
the
for the
side.
casual. I feel like
You know,
for fairly kind of hardcore fans like you, I feel like you, if you saw them like on the poster, I feel like you still be pretty happy with it though, just from the kind
for
of
a main event, no,
historical
I would
and
not
the
be happy.
respect. Really, not
I
even
would
on the
not be
fight
happy
night.
with a welterweight bout between those two. I would not be happy with that as a main event because there's no reason for that to be a main event. Like what's that gonna what's
It would be just for the respect value and the send off value.
UFC doesn't do that.
Yeah. It's all about the money with the UFC, is what it is. I think the last fight on the card though was somewhat. It was a huge shock because we had Kevin Lee, lightweight bout, number 8 Kevin Lee against number 13 ranked Charles Oliveira, and this ended by submission in round 3, only like 30 seconds of the round because Lee he shot for a single leg and he got caught in a really deep guillotine. And this was a really bad loss and a huge momentum killer for Lee. With this, Oliveira does remain undefeated when fighting in his home country, Brazil. Lee has taken his first loss when he's fought overseas or outside of the U.S. And from this, I really got this kind of threw me off, and it kind of surprised me that Lee said he's going to be taking a multi-year leave of absence after this fight.
You can't really trust what that dude says. No offense to Guy, but he is kind of wishy-washy,
I don't know if I
and
buy it.
he has a right to be very emotional right now because he had a terrible performance in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I want to talk about Oliveira
Mm-hmm.
more than I want to talk about Kevin Lee because Kevin Lee, I still think he's a stud. I think he'll be back. He's too young and too hungry and too, gifted to give up on this dream. I think he just really needs to refocus and kind of hit the reset button, do something. I don't know what he needs to do. And obviously if he knew what he needed to do, he would have had it figured out. But whatever, I think it is a good call for him to maybe give it a little bit of a break for a while and just reset things, get everything lined up and make sure that you make weight for the class that you want to succeed in, right? If you're going to be a 155 pounder, make 156 pounds. If you can't do it, then you got to reevaluate and see what your other options are. 170, you got to just see what you can do.
I
Now,
think Kevin Lee is a great argument to make for the 165-pound
yeah, but
division.
that's an argument for another day because that just is
Okay.
fairy tale right now.
Yeah, right.
Charles Oliveira is the guy that we need to talk about. This guy has been flying under the radar for most people, especially if you're not a hardcore fan. You probably know nothing about this guy.
Mm-hmm.
He's on a 7-fight win streak right now, spanning
Is that
all the way
the
back to
second
2018.
longest in UFC right now?
I'm not too sure off the top of my head.
No. In the lightweight, I think that's like it's one of the longest ones right now. I think it's
It's
top
an
3 of the
impressive win
longest
streak.
ones.
Don't have the
Yeah,
exact
7
numbers
wins
on it.
nonetheless
We
is
don't have a
amazing.
fact guy like Ariel Helwani, so you guys are just gonna have to deal with that and look up your own shit.
Yeah, sorry,
He's
we
on a
don't
7-fight
have
win streak
anyone
though.
to look up that. Yeah. Yeah, it's
So
still amazing stuff right there.
since June 9th of 2018, he has won 7 fights. His last loss was to Paul Felder, actually, believe it or not, we were just talking about. So I mean, he's losing. He's not losing very often, right? Before that, his only losses were Ricardo Lamas, who's a fantastic featherweight, not as much anymore because he's getting a little older. Anthony Pettis is another guy he lost to. Max Holloway, Frankie Edgar, Cub Swanson. You get the idea. Like he has fought Donald Cerrone, another guy he's lost, and his only other loss, Jim Miller. So
He's
has
not losing
fought,
to scrubs.
He's beat Jeremy Stevens. He's beat Miles Jury. He beat Will Brooks, Clay Guida. He got a rematch against Jim Miller, beat him up. David Tamer, he beat him up. Nick Lentz beat him up. Jared Gordon knocked him out. Kevin Lee submitted him. It's just insane the guys that he's fought. He's fought the who's who for featherweight, lightweight, and he's even messed around a little bit with some welterweights. So this guy, I think, needs to get some respect put on his name. Not to mention 5 out of those fights, 5 out of those, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 have been performance of the nights spanning over his 7-fight win streak.
This guy's good. I think that 13th rank, number 13 rank in the lightweight, I think that's kind of throws people off because he's really not. He's better than the 13th rank.
He the only thing I think going against him is just his competition that he's been fighting. I know it kind of sounds weird that I'm saying that, but this is like when you say the names, they hold weight, right? But then when you're looking at the rankings and the time that he fought these certain fighters, their rankings aren't very impressive. So it just kind of goes against him in that sense. Like the fights that really mattered to him when he was building momentum, it seems like he kind of lost. So now it's really just about sustaining this and picking his battles from now on. I mean, Kevin Lee, that's a huge name under his belt. Now that's a guy that's highly ranked, that everyone had him as the underdog for. And now he's just going to, the competition is just going to increase now. I think his next bets are going to be probably Justin Gaethje, Dustin Poirier. If he's not going to go and fight dude that beat up Felder. So there's
Dan
Hooker. So it's going to be interesting. There's so many interesting people in the lightweight division. It is insane right now.
What's better at this point? Is lightweight the lightweight has to be the best division in UFC right now, right?
I think it's the deepest right now, especially towards the top. Like all of these fights, I mean, you could have them fight each other. Like anyone, you can match up anyone, and I would be pretty excited for that fight.
Right.
Like, and even the rematches, like Conor rematching Dustin, or Dustin rematching Justin. I would be so intrigued in seeing like all of those fights that you can make.
I'd be okay with anything, But I think one of the biggest takeaways for this is that, as I did mention, this fight this whole card took place in front of a empty arena. The only people there were the judges, the commentators, and the ring announcer. And then they had, I think the MVP of the night, at least, was the best fan in the arena, and that was UFC matchmaker Mick Maynard. And he really took it upon himself to be as loud and to cheer as much as possible. And I really respected that.
Hey, someone had to do it.
Someone had to do it. But I really thought it was interesting playing or fighting in front of an empty arena, because one thing, some of the differences is that Michael Bisping on commentary, he sounded almost like you were like commentating golf. He was like talking a little quiet, a little calmer, but he was still like being really breakdown. This whole thing seemed like a really cool fight exhibition. It looked like it was just a couple of guys in like almost a practice, just showing off. It
reminded me basically of the Ultimate Fighter. That's the exact same setup that they have for the Ultimate Fighter, just a bigger arena. But the thing I'm wondering is, because I know some people are more emotional than others and they feed off of energy. I'm wondering if that really, especially for like the people where it's like their home crowd, right? The Brazilian fighters, that's something that you cannot replicate when you have your countrymen around you, you have your family, your friends, your loved ones, just all that energy just building you up. I'm wondering how much of an effect that had on this event last weekend, or if it had any effect at all. Just something interesting to think about.
I kind of did like the quietness of it, to be honest, because it seemed the kicks sounded way louder, the punches sounded louder. There's a takedown, guy hit him with a double leg slam onto the canvas, and that was loud as hell. I never realized when they banged those sticks together for the 10-second warning at the end of rounds, those things are loud.
Oh yeah, they gotta be.
Man, you can hear the echo throughout the arena. I thought the attitude and kind of the mood and the feeling that the lack of audience had, I thought it was a cool spectacle. I think it was a cool thing, and if they had another card in front of no one, because that's what it might seem for the time being, I would be okay with it, because I thought it was still really cool to watch.
I'd be okay with it, but I never want to see it again.
You didn't like it?
Yeah, I'd rather have the crowd. I think it's unfair to the fighters. That's the reason that they do this sport, right? Because they're basically modern day gladiators. They're doing it because it's an entertainment. It's like that high, that adrenaline rush they get going into the ring, seeing all those, faces that are just kind of, blurs at that point when they're in there. It's just kind of like a blur when they look out there, but they're all out there still. And compared to this week where it was just like, it was pitch black, and then just that one little ring of light.
right? Yeah,
So
I still thought it was great how they played out the production value the same way they would if the crowd was there. After a post-fight interview, we did have Michael Bisping make the mistake of saying, "Let's make some noise." He was
right.
just talking to the judges. And I thought it was weird seeing them walk out in front of no one to no cheers when there's big things taking place. I still think it was great that they did all the announcing and stuff, at least with the TV production value. And all in all, I think it was a very successful card, and I hope that a lot of people were able to tune in for this because the prelims and the main card were rock solid for a fight night. I think it could have been a good prelims and a decent main card if we're putting on a pay-per-view. To be honest, so I thought it was a very successful weekend for the UFC.
Yeah, definitely didn't hurt their stock.
Oh no, not at all. Transitioning from the UFC, we're going to take this into a segment we had on last week where we had the debut of this. This is the hot seat, and so Blake, he didn't really have a take this week, but it's all good because I do, and I have great takes. Because most of the time, my takes they turn out to be correct, as we'll probably get into in a sec because I
Most
like
of
to
the
brag.
time, like twice ever.
Yes. Let's not get into semantics, okay? That is tomato tomato.
Jesus.
Don't shake your head at me like that, you piece of crap. So here we go. I got a couple takes for this week. This is concerning quarterbacks and where they're going to be at the start of next season. First off, let's talk Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston is going to be the starting quarterback for the Los Angeles Chargers at the beginning of the 2020-2021 NFL season. What do you think?
Why don't you just say next season?
Well, it's because I like to be a little more demonstrative with it, and it's
That was like three too many 20s that you said.
just I don't care about that. Just give me your damn opinion on this take, okay?
I think it's very. I don't even know. Like, are we going off like hot ones, like hot sauce rating? Like, is this
Hey, nah, we're
actual
going
peppers?
peppers.
Like,
We're
what's?
going
I don't
actual
even.
peppers.
I
Actual
need to bring
peppers.
up a. Like, let me see the
Are
pepper.
bringing? I swear, are you bringing the damn Scoville chart of peppers?
Let's do it.
Oh, this is weird.
Let's see here. I think I got one. Okay,
Okay.
so that is pure Caspicin. That is I'm trying to freaking your dang
Caspicin?
face is in the way.
Then move my
Whatever
face out of the way.
it's 15 million whatevers. That's the
Okay, where's that in
spiciest.
between? Is that like in between, like obviously probably above jalapeno, under habanero? Give us a
It
reference
is
because
it is way above pepper spray.
okay, so this is pretty hot. It's a pretty
It's
hot
way
take.
above it. Like so pepper spray is number 2 and ghost pepper
Mhm.
is 2 underneath that.
Ooh,
So it's
so
pretty hot. That's a very hot take.
okay, I'll take this. A little spicy. That's back to back, very hot take. So from my one going off of last week, which ended up being somewhat incorrect, but let's not talk about that. We'll just talk about that was a hot take. Is all. Second one is probably not as hot, but maybe I'll still get the heat factor for this for me being how specific I am with this one, and that is that Cam Newton is going to be traded to the Chicago Bears for a 2020 second round draft pick. What's the likelihood of that one?
I think that's you're doing the pure Caspicians today. You're living in the pure Caspicians land. I'm totally pronouncing that name wrong, and I don't
Who the
care.
hell cares? This is Fourth Lawn Podcast. We pronounce
So
things
if anyone has
however
a
the hell
problem
we
with it,
want.
don't care.
If anyone has a problem with
Earl
it,
sweatshirt
at me.
meme, don't care. But they only have one pick in the top 50. Their second round pick is their first pick this year for the Bears. I'm talking about. They picked number 43, so that they be given the 43rd pick of this year's draft
There's
to the
to let
Panthers.
people know, just in case, they did give away that first round draft pick in the Khalil Mack trade.
Right. Thank you very much.
Of course. That's what I'm here
So
for.
I have a hard time seeing them since you got so specific. That's the real reason why I'm going so hot. But I do think that maybe I shouldn't put it so hot. Maybe I should leave it at a ghost pepper
Okay,
because
I'll still
they
take those.
could be desperate. They could be desperate. They could have seen enough from Mitchell Trubisky at this point to go, you know what? We need to get someone in here. We need to infuse some talent. And they might still think that their roster, shoot, 2 years ago they were what, 13-3, 10-6. What were they at?
I think
12 and
12 and
4.
4, 12 and
Yeah,
4.
they
They
had
were a
an
solid playoff team, is
insane
what they were.
insane year. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I mean, if they get a better quarterback with better talent,
It's Mitch,
better
man. Mitch
leader,
is killing them.
yeah. So who knows? But again, I don't know. Are they going to be confident in Cam Newton coming off of a year that he didn't really play? So I think it's a hot take. Maybe not too hot, but I don't know. You know what? And I actually kind of feel weird now because I think that I feel like the Jameis take is probably less of a hot take than this one.
Really?
Because at least Jameis could, like, the Chargers, all they're doing is paying him, right? They're not having to give up any assets. They're just paying the dude.
They're just giving him cash.
Right. So I don't know. Maybe I'll take that back. I'll give your Jameis one a habanero.
Okay.
And I'll definitely give
The Cam Newton 2020 second rounder to the Bears.
I'm giving the Cam Newton one a ghost pepper for sure.
You want? I'll take that. That was I think I got the Carolina Reaper last week because my hot take had like 3 different aspects. So you can go check that out in the on the other
3.
Spotify.
That's number 3 in the top 3, Carolina Reaper.
What is the hot pepper if we're on the conversation?
Pure Caspasian. That's the one that I was giving you.
That's the hottest pepper you can get.
Yes, sir. And then there's Trinidad Scorpion that's under the Carolina Reaper. And then right under that is Ghost Pepper.
All of those sound like something that I will never in a million years ever want to put into my mouth.
Don't do it. I've done Ghost Pepper. Hell. Bad idea.
Oh, why?
Because I'm just I don't make the best decisions all the time.
That's fair enough. But that is the hot seat. Let us know what you guys think of that one. Of course, always reach out to us. I want to next talk about the impact of what the coronavirus, COVID-19, has had on the professional sports landscape. You guys might have seen I put out about 10-minute video up on YouTube. You can go check that out, talking about what is going on, the impacts, and kind of what the future holds for this. And I want to go over again in this podcast. So almost every league and or fighting promotion in America has been suspended, canceled, or postponed. And the CDC has recently put out a 2-month suspension recommendation for all sporting events. The first first league talked about is the NFL. Right now, the league year is still slated to start on 3/18. The draft, though, has been canceled. The event itself has been canceled and now will be only televised. And OTAs have been suspended indefinitely. But with the draft, it was very dramatic news for you, Blake. You want to vent a little bit to us, please?
Yeah, I'm trying to stay positive. If you guys listened to some of the previous shows, there was one where we discussed that I was going to be going to Vegas for the draft and all the festivities that are involved there. So I was really looking forward to that. But we all got to do our part in this time and kind of limit the spread of this disease. So I totally understand why the NFL is doing what they're doing, why the country is doing what they're doing, and we just got to kind of take it day by day. Really, it's a shame that I don't get to go out there and stomp around and wear my Raider gear and talk to a bunch of excited fans. So I'm definitely gonna be sad about not getting to experience that. I couldn't believe how it all worked out. It was wild how it all just came together. And first year in Vegas, we're gonna have the draft, but
of course, it's too perfect. It's too perfect. That's like how Corona might. We'll talk about in a sec how Corona might cancel the 5th time that we've made the Khabib Ferguson fight, because as sports fans, Blake, we don't deserve anything, because if it's actually working out perfectly, it's just not going to work out, is it?
Yep.
Damn sports gods. I feel for you, Blake. I feel for you, because we were going to have an insider at the draft, man. And now no one is. But if with the draft now, if they make the whole thing, if they elongate it, let's fully televise the 7th round, because I'll still be watching that, because that's going to be the only thing on TV.
So yeah, I think it helps.
Could be worse.
The NFL really has been a big winner of this whole coronavirus thing. If there really has been any winners, I guess you would put quotation marks against that. The UFC kind of, like I said, I don't know how I would like to see their numbers. I didn't get to see that
Hmm.
over this last weekend.
Yeah.
Um, Putting them on ESPN definitely helped them out, but still, I just don't think the event was captivating enough to really capture the
That's fair.
casual fan.
Hopefully 249 will make a big
Right.
statement
If
to it. But the
249 goes
NFL,
on as
yeah,
planned, then that's going to be huge.
we'll
I
talk
really
about
hate.
that
That's the
at
thing
the
that
end
I
of
hate.
this.
That it's not gonna. Now screw that. Let's talk about it right now.
Oh, okay, let's go right into UFC.
US, tell them
Blake,
about
thank
what's
you.
gonna
Okay,
happen.
so what's going to happen right as of right now? Dana White a couple days ago has announced that out of just pure being forced to do this, the next three UFC events have been postponed or canceled altogether. We have, I think, as of right now, they're still postponed. That was going to be the UFC Fight Night London. That was the Tyron Woodley, Leon Edwards fight. Then there was UFC on ESPN 8. This was the Rosenstruck and Nagano fight that I'm really disappointed we're not going to be able to see. And then it was the third one was the UFC Fight Night 172, and that was Alistair Overeem versus Harris. So all those have been postponed as of right now. They were initially going to try to move them to the Apex Center, which is UFC's kind of main gym in Vegas, and even
Nope.
that got canceled. And so, but as of right now, Dana White is dead set on having UFC 249 go on as planned. He is adamant that this fight will take place. There might not be a crowd, and it might not even take place in America. But he still says that at least the main event is going to happen. And it needs to. Please, for the love of everything, just have if it comes down to if we have to go to some dinky ass gym in Russia and it's just televised and we get one camera angle and all we get is the Ferguson Khabib fight, I will still be okay with that.
I don't know, man. That's tough for me because I think that these guys deserve to fight at like the pinnacle of the sport. Like they need to have all eyes on them. They've earned that right. These guys are
Mm-hmm.
both champions. These guys, it's a big deal. These guys fighting, it's a huge deal. I would hate for them to have to fight in an empty stadium or somewhere that's just, not where the contract was originally signed for. It
Mm-hmm.
just, it's just too bad, man. The timing of this all, selfishly, me saying that, it just really sucks because, like we touched on earlier, this is going to be what the fifth time at least. I think it's the
This
fourth
is
or
a
fifth time
this is the
that this
fifth time
fight's
that the
been.
fight has been scheduled.
So it's about time for these guys to fight. It's got to be taking some kind of mental weight on them too, right? Just because they're getting in the mood to fight these guys, they probably have already done all the homework on these guys, and then just falls through at the last second each time. So if that happens again, I'm going to be super upset. But I'd rather it happen in the kind of like the perfect setting. But
Of course.
but
That's
if it has to
that's
go
not going to
down,
happen
it
now,
has to go
right?
down. It has to go down.
There's no way that they're actually able to host this in Barclays Center like they were originally planning on. There's no way, right?
Nope.
No,
I
it
don't think it
does
can be.
suck.
I don't think it'd be held in the U.S.
No, because
Uh,
this takes place April 18th, so it's only about it's only a month away.
yeah,
It doesn't clear up enough. I don't think this whole thing blows over by then, and it's a shame. And that's just is I just want the fight at this point. That's all I
I wouldn't
need.
mind a postponing, but the only thing that comes into play is just the whole. It's getting real close to Ramadan. I think after that, right? I'm not.
Oh yeah.
I'm not in tune with all that, so I can't tell you the exact dates. But I know that it gets a little murky in the waters around like kind of early
Yep.
summertime
Yeah.
for Habib because I know he has to have that break.
Hmm. All I know
So
is that I really hope it works out for the UFC
yeah,
and for UFC fans around the world. The NBA, they were the first professional league to suspend all activities, and right now they're looking at being suspended until June. And this is going to be really tricky because they still have a few weeks of the regular season, and they still have about like a month of playoffs. And the next season is still slated to start in October, so it's really going to be weird how they're going to be able to fit all of this in. And this is the same situation for the NHL. The NHL and NBA have really similar seasons, really similar start times. NHL playoffs do take longer normally, but it's really tricky of how this postponement and suspension is going to be impacting the next season now too.
yeah. I mean, it's unprecedented So we'll see how they deal with it. I think
Mhm.
that
There are
as
sips and sorrow, right? Especially with four Nets players, including Kevin Durant, just today were announced to come down with COVID-19.
right, yeah, that blew my mind. Guy that's on the bench, not even really playing all that much.
I'm sure they'll be fine, but it's still crazy that
Oh
it's
yeah, no
spreading still.
symptoms.
No, it's
But
that's a little
again,
scary.
that's not. Those aren't the people that we need to worry about. The people that we need to worry about are the old ones, the people that
Yeah,
have respiratory diseases,
yeah.
the young children,
We're not
the
a
at
medical
risk.
podcast, but that is just a thing. I think another thing, MLB spring training canceled. Opening day currently pushed back to late May, possibly June, and it's becoming more and more likely that it'll be pushed back further. And that is a damn shame because I know not a lot of people are big fans of baseball, but I really enjoy baseball, and it's just going to be taken away from all of us much longer. But the thing I was the most disappointed, most saddened by from all the biggest tragedy and the biggest casualty of this Corona cancellations is what I'll call it, is the XFL. The rest of the regular season has been canceled. They didn't play this past weekend. They're doing the right thing at least by playing the full contract of the players. They're still going to pay out the rest of this contract, and they're really pushing them to immediately begin trying to sign with NFL teams. We're likely going to see signings of PJ Walker, Cam Phillips, Join Teamu might be picked up, Josh Johnson might be picked up, among other names. Over this too, we did have a unidentified Salad Dragons player. He did test positive for COVID-19, and they're taking action doing so. At least they made it adamant that they will still be back in 2021 and beyond. And this was the biggest chunk of my video that I released on Saturday that you guys can go see on the YouTube. But I was really disheartened by this because I love the XFL. They exceeded expectations almost every week. I know Blake, you got into it like took you a couple weeks, but you still really enjoyed it too, being your Battlehawks fan. And
Yep.
of course, the team I root for, the Houston Roughnecks. I was there day one. They're 5-0, looking like they're the championship favorite, and then the rest of the league rest of the season gets canceled, and they not gonna get that. But it sucks because XFL is doing so good, and I really hope it shouldn't. But I really hope this doesn't affect them in the future. I hope they'll be back and better than ever next season, I believe.
Well, Vince McMahon even came out and said he was willing to spend, his own money to make sure that there's at least 3 seasons, right?
See, this is Vic. A lot
So,
of people understand. A lot of people saying it might go under now. No, Vince McMahon. He is a multi. He has a lot of money, and he is a guy that the XFL is Vince McMahon's baby, and he'll do everything. He'll probably have damn near. He'll probably get close to having the WWE go under just so he can have the XFL, which is another thing. If we're talking Vince McMahon, I know not a lot of people. Most people aren't fans of WWE, but we're going to be a well-rounded show, and if we need to talk news, we'll talk about it. WrestleMania, one of the biggest sporting events in the world, because we have over 100,000 plus people every year view it. It makes a lot of money. They are moving it into the WWE's training center in front of no no people. It's going to be mandatory personnel only. It's going to be a big change, and Vince McMahon's pocketbook is going to be taking some big hits over the next month or so.
yep, but that's just something that I'm sure he's prepared for. So,
Hmm.
when you're in the
Shocker.
entertainment business, that's just, you can't really prevent these things. You just got to kind of
Show
do what you
must go
can.
on.
Right.
Show must go on, right? And so that's like the biggest impacts that COVID-19 is having on it. And I just want the best for the future. I hope it all works out because like this whole MLB or NFL free agency has kind of scratched my itch for a little bit, but that itch will be back very soon. And UFC can only do so much. You know,
Right.
I'm gonna have to get into bowling in darts, I
Don't you
think.
dare.
I'll be a desperate man, Blake. Don't I'll be tempted. Man, but to finish out the show, we're going to talk about the NFL news from day 2 of free agency. We had a whole show on day 1 because we had to. It took us an hour to get through everything because there is that much. Today, there's still a lot that went down, a little less and a little more confined, so we could talk about this just on the podcast itself. First thing I want to talk about, we talked about the rumors in the last show, but Colts do officially sign Philip Rivers to a 1-year contract worth around $25 million. I think this is decent signing. Jacoby's probably going to be back up now. Philip Rivers, you discussed in our last show, Blake, that his decision making was a little poor, but the bright side of this is that in LA he had one of the worst offensive lines in the league, and now with the Colts he's moving to one of the best offensive lines in the league, and it might not be a substantial difference, but that should have an impact on him.
Yeah, I think so. And his defense keeps them on schedule. He's not going to have that elite, crazy, god tier defense like he had in Chargers, which, I mean, Bosa and Ingram are just phenomenal, and not to mention that safety when he's playing. So I think it's a good fit for both of them. $25 million. It sounds like a lot, but it's just 1 year, so it really just affects them this year. And
Not
I think
fully guaranteed.
Yeah, they're ready to rock. So good for both of them. Philip gets his money. Colts get a quarterback that they're confident in.
It's a good proof of contract because you're only tied to him for a season, and it's not a big chunk of money. And so you're really just seeing what he has left. You're putting in. I advocate that the Colts were probably the top landing spot for a free agent quarterback, and I think he's in a good position there in Indianapolis. As I mentioned in the last show, that the Colts are building their team up the right way, and I think they're going to be a contender this season. Maybe not Super Bowl contender, but they're going to be solid in the playoffs. One thing we alluded to earlier was Blake's bad take and my great take in yesterday's show. But big time news, it's weird. Earlier this morning, Tom Brady announced on Instagram that he will not be returning to the Patriots. And we're going to see Tom Brady in a different jersey that is not red, white, and blue. And the jersey the colors that he is going to be in is orange, black, and red. He's signing with the Bucs, dude. He's signing what's likely the full contract information hasn't come out yet because the Bucs aren't going to announce it until tomorrow. But barring any unforeseen circumstances, Tom Brady is expected to sign a multi-year deal worth around $30 million a year for the Bucs. What did you think about this? Would you like to repent for your sins that you made on the last show?
Nah, I mean, I didn't see this coming. I don't have NFL insiders, and
obviously
I don't know. I just did not think that he was going to the Bucs. You know, he's a California guy. I was thinking, you know what I really think is he wanted to go to the Niners, really, really bad. But that was
down.
Yeah, but there was just no chance in that happening. So once that happened, I don't know if the Chargers were ever really in it. I don't know if the Raiders were really. I don't know how much truth there was to that rumor. But the Bucs, I mean, I didn't hear anything about the Bucs.
Not till late. Late.
So that kind of blew my mind. But that just goes to show you people out there pushing stories, trying to get their clicks. So, I mean, I can't tell you how many freaking articles I had to read this year about Tom Brady going to Vegas.
Not only is the Fourth and Long podcast, not only are we putting out quality content, we are changing the way sports work because we're not just putting out BS clickbait and BS articles and stuff like that. We're actually giving good news. Correct?
Yes, and we're talking about it.
We're
talking about it, not screaming.
I mean, some of it is good. Like some of it can be entertaining. It's stupid, but Blake. What we're doing, we're not here to take place. We're here to take over because the Fourth and Long is a sports revolution, and I thought you'd be more appreciative of my MMA reference to that.
I hear you, Connor.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. Just looking at that, but this is weird. It's going to be really weird seeing Tom Brady wear a different uniform. But as I alluded to, you can hear why. You can listen to our last show to hear why I think Brady is a good fit there in Tampa. But my question from this is, do you think so? I had the hot take that Jameis Winston is going to be playing for the Chargers, but who do you think Jameis Winston plays for next year? Starter, backup, is he even going to be playing? What do you think?
He's definitely going to be playing. It's just so hard to think about so I think that the top two most quarterback needy teams right now are, in my mind, the Bengals and the Dolphins. but I think both of those teams are primed to take their quarterbacks in the draft.
Dolphins would take into a Tagovailoa.
I think Dolphins
They
would take
have
two,
to.
and
They have to.
I think Burrow goes number one to the Bengals unless they trade out of it.
Yeah. And there's no way, because we discussed with AJ Green, they have to take
right.
Denver.
Yeah, I think they showed their cards with that.
Who's Jameis play for?
Man, it's really tough.
Right?
I'm trying to think because, I mean, if Roethlisberger wasn't coming back this year, I'd say Steelers are in it.
I don't think
the Chargers are definitely in it. It's just.
Do you think he's a starter next year, or do you think he's going to be taken back?
That's what I was saying. I don't know. First of all, I don't know if his ego is going to allow him to not be a starter. Right. I'm not saying he has a huge ego or anything like that, but it's just.
Well, no, he does, because he was trying to say that he was one of the top quarterbacks in the league last year. He was top in passing yardage, but you can't be a top quarterback if you go 30-30.
Right. I just think it's going to be a big thing for him. He'd have to really humble himself in order to go from being the guy, the leader on the team, to taking a backup role and, making sure that you put someone else's responsibilities ahead of yours, pretty much. Like, you're trying to get them prepared fully as well as making sure you're fully prepared. So I don't know. I think he has to get a starter role, but I don't really see too many teams that are going to be really foaming at the mouth to get the dude.
I do agree. I think he's probably going to have to settle for something like, if he's a starter, he's probably not going to make more than 20 a year, which is, no matter what contract he signs, I really think he's going to have to swallow his pride and just sign something, because I don't think the market's going to be huge on him, and then that smaller market is not going to be paying him what he wants. He probably wants something like 30 a year.
And do you think Jacksonville is staying with Gardner Minshew?
I think Jacksonville's rolling. They're going to go forward Gardner Minshew. As I said, they are looking to get out of Nick Foles, either cutting him, which is going to cost them a lot of money, or they're more than likely trading him.
Right.
I think Jameis could be a good. If they get rid of Nick Foles, Jameis could be a decent backup in Jacksonville. But besides the Chargers, I don't see him starting anywhere else.
Yeah, I'm struggling to think of somewhere that he could go to and that he'd want and they'd want to come in day one.
Exactly. But a backup that's now going to be a starter. We were talking about Cam Newton earlier. The Panthers are pretty much forcing a trade to get rid of Cam Newton. They did say, the Panthers said it was mutual. Cam Newton later said after that, he said that he never asked for it. A little bit of drama in that one. But Teddy Bridgewater has signed a 3-year deal worth $63 million with the Panthers. Happy for him, because I think he's one of the better quarterbacks in the league. I think he was really good, and I think he could be a great starter in the NFL. And I think this is a great move for the Panthers. I think it's going to be a good fit. And I'm not just saying that because he's a black quarterback, okay? I'm saying because he's a mobile, athletic quarterback, and he's going to be able to make some moves with his feet like Cam Newton was able to do a few years ago. And I think it's overall it's a good move, but where is Cam Newton going to be landing now? Because the Panthers can't have both Newton and Bridgewater. So where's Newton going to be?
I don't know. It's going to be tough because he has to be traded for now. So someone's going to have to give up an asset for him, if not multiple.
Do you think what's fair? Do you think
I'd
third rounder for Newton?
I'd say the most I'd give up for him is a third.
Maybe
I'd think probably a fourth.
2021 second.
I'd say probably a 2020 third or fourth round pick would get the deal done.
Yeah, they're kind of in a rough spot with that one. They don't have a lot of leverage with that one.
Because they really don't. I mean, if they didn't just sign Bridgewater, it'd be a different story. But
it sounds like they had to sign Bridgewater because of Bridgewater's interest in possibly the Patriots, possibly the Chargers, possibly the Bears. So I feel like the Panthers did what they had to do and just sign him and get him off the market and secure their starting quarterback for next year.
Yep, and that's all they were trying to do. I mean, they're not going to get much in return for Newton.
No. So what'd you say? You say a fourth in a
I'd say a third or a fourth. Third or a fourth would get the job done, I think.
That's fair.
I think maybe you probably throw in a couple more picks. Maybe like
a fourth and a fifth.
Yeah.
A third or fourth and fifth. Something like that, something not high, but they can still get decent value out of him. It really just depends on what team they're able to target. And I think one of the final kind of big signings or bigger signings from today, besides Vic Beasley joining linebacker joining the Tennessee Titans, shoring up that defense, which I think is a rock solid move. The Falcons are really losing some players this offseason.
We brought
But
up the Bills trade, right, with Stephon Diggs.
yeah, we had that yesterday because it came breaking news. Yep.
Couldn't remember if we did that or not.
Yeah, we did do that one. That was in the end. That
Can't
was a
believe
big time
that they
deal.
got more for him than DeAndre Hopkins. Like, that's just.
I was saying today, another move. What happened is that the Steelers signed another Watt. They signed TJ Watt, I believe. But
Derek.
what I was saying, Derek, thank you. So that the Steelers now have TJ Watt. They now have Derek Watt. And so what I was saying, I think if you're the Steelers, it's time to complete the holy trinity of the Watt brothers. You need to trade for JJ Watt now. And hey, who knows? If I was the Steelers right now, I'd say, hey, Houston, we got a 2021 sixth rounder for you if you want to give us JJ Watt. And I think that trade would go through if we're talking about Bill O'Brien here.
Yeah, you could offer him some hot tamales and he'll probably pick up the phone, say yes, please.
Oh, man, that's dumpster fire here. So we talked about it yesterday with that trade. But
well, you know what? Another thing that I tried to say yesterday, I tried to kind of rationalize it by saying, you know what, maybe he's old, right? Maybe DeAndre Hopkins is old. I looked up his age today. He's 27.
Exactly. He's not old.
My God, what was he thinking?
No matter how you talk, it is impossible to justify that trade. You can't. Nope. You really can't. And so, listen to our spicy take on the DeAndre Hopkins in the last video. But Blake, let's go to your Raiders perspective, okay? The Raiders signed former Cowboys tight end Jason Wynn to a 1-year, $4.75 million deal. I think that's a fair contract. How impactful do you think this is going to be for the Raiders?
I think from a leadership standpoint, it'll be valuable. I don't think he's going to – I don't know how much production his play will carry anymore because
the Raiders already had that breakout tight end from last year.
We're set. Not only did we have one breakout tight end, we had two. We had Foster Moreau, who came, I believe he was a 4th or 5th round pick for us. I want to say 5th. He came from LSU, actually played with Joe Burrow 2 years ago. And he had, I think, 5 touchdowns last year, and most of them were in the red zone. Had a few several key catches really until he went down with injury towards late last season. So I don't think he's really there to necessarily add yards and touchdowns. You know, maybe the couple plays here and there, right? Maybe in the red zone. I think he's more there for just added leadership value. A guy that knows he's a Hall of Famer. He's all pro. Everything. Like, he's going to show these guys how to freaking go about their work, how to be a professional football player. So I love the signing in that sense.
And he has also that grit too. You know,
I think we got to talk about the fact that the Raiders are winners right now in my mind for free agency. We haven't really overspent. The only like people are saying that we overspent on that Carl Nassib guy, or Nassib, however you pronounce that guy, the guy that tried to teach finance for the Browns on Hard Knocks a couple years back.
Yeah,
to all the players. He's a defensive end. But if you look at what we gave him, he's like just under number 30 for defensive ends in the NFL, what he's getting paid. So it really wasn't a reach for that. We got Corey Littleton. We got, how do I say that Bears linebacker named Kwiatkowski?
Yes.
Kwiatkowski, something like that.
Yep. Kwiatkowski.
And then we also got Malik Collins from the Dallas Cowboys, who's a defensive tackle. We've gotten some studs, man. We've gotten some really good
sheriffs at back position, maybe push your car a little bit.
But you know what's weird about Mariota? The numbers, the official numbers haven't been released on him yet. So I'm wondering what the heck's going on with that.
Yeah, that's fair. But I do agree. As much as it pains me to agree with this, obviously you can see the name on the sweatshirt. Go Broncos! But man, the Raiders they're doing decent right now. I'm not going
good moves.
I think the Raiders are making. They're not reaching. They're being smart with the acquisitions. They're not signing these huge names, but they're signing these guys
and all those guys.
No, they're signing these guys to good contracts, and will still have a good impact on the field. And I have to give the Raiders credit where credit is due. Can you appreciate that?
They're filling holes. That's the main thing. And yes, I can appreciate that.
I'm sure you can see in my face. It hurts me to talk positively about the Raiders like this.
Well, the thing is we know each other's team.
Oh yeah,
we know each other because we play each other 2 times a year, each year. So we know like where our holes are. We know what we're good at.
And each year they each go 1-1 against each other.
most
That's
of the
why our
time,
bets are always washed.
pretty much. Ever since I've known
But
you.
as a professional in this industry and as a non-biased sports reporter, I'd say that the Raiders are doing a good job, and I'll give them a B in free agency so far. I think that's because they haven't made splashes, but they haven't had bad moves, and they've been just making these good moves. They're not these huge superstars, but as you said, they're plugging holes in the defense and the offense. And the locker room presence that Jason Wynn is going to bring, it's all positive, especially from a locker room that was not the healthiest last year, you could say.
Yeah. I mean, from the outside looking in.
Yes, yeah, of course, we're not insiders. I'm not in the locker room, but from the outside looking in, it looked kind of a mess, especially with Antonio Brown.
Yeah, again, I think that might have just brought the team closer. So who knows? It was a mess, though, for sure.
Hmm. Yep, but with all that being said, guys, that is going to do it for us today. We thank you all very much for listening. Of course, you can check out the show, Spotify, YouTube, a lot of other streaming services, Anchor as well. We have a website now, www.thefourthandlong.com. Go check that. That's where you can find everything. We even have a Facebook now. Check out everything, Twitter, Instagram, all the good stuff. Everything you need to know is on that website. Once again, that's www.thefourthandlong.com. Blake, thank you so much for giving us your great UFC insight and your Raiders insight as well. Very much appreciated.
Hell yeah. It's a pleasure
And
talking with you.
it's always a good time just shooting the shit, right? Censor that, I guess. Maybe I'll do that in post. Probably not. But we should have Jalen Johnson back on here next week. He was feeling a bit under the weather, and he probably has corona, so good for him. But guys, thank
Christ.
you. Thank you all very much for listening. I hope you all stay safe out there. Make sure to wash your hands. Use a hand sanitizer. Remember, 30 seconds soap and hot water when you wash those hands. Okay, let's stop the spread of this so we can get back to our sports as soon as possible. Please, for the love of God, let's just have sports again. But have a great rest of your night, guys. As I said, stay safe, stay socked up, and let's not. And hopefully, we will not have the apocalypse to worry about soon.